The King's Avatar, Chapter 582, Audio source, Wuxia-World-Audiobook.com. Chapter 582 Under Attack. All the clerics were already dead on the ground. There were 3 clerics in the team that was assisting Unrivaled Super Hottie to steal the boss. No one thought that all of them would die together after that flashy attack. Everyone had a hard time believing it. When the people who were yelling, "Heal! Heal!" looked at their own health, they realized that they had only taken a small amount of damage. These small scratches probably resulted from being accidentally grazed by some skills when they were dashing about in a panic. That airstrike had clearly been targeting the clerics, but the garish skill effects made him feel like it was the end of the world, spreading fear into the hearts of all. It was only when the panic subsided did people notice that the Spitfire was still among them. At this moment, the Spitfire stood up, fired again, and tossed out grenades. The panic immediately resumed. The flying bullets and roaring explosions created an illusion of an all-out assault. He fought his way out of the crowd effortlessly. "What are you doing? Stop embarrassing yourselves." The Guild Master of Tyrannical Ambition, Jiang Yu, watched the entire mess take place. Although he hadn't come over, the boss was still his top priority. Seeing his elite team being devastated by a single person, Jiang Yu yelled out right away to calm down his guild members. At the same time, his heart shook in fright over the astonishing abilities of the unexpected troublemaker. Initially, Jiang Yu didn't notice that all 3 clerics were dead. After all, he was not there amidst the chaos, so his observations weren't as thorough. With a closer look, Jiang Yu finally noticed the problem, much to his own shock. While everyone else was still wondering how all the clerics had died, as the guild master, he already realized the more immediate crisis at hand: Unrivaled Super Hottie. That's right. Truthfully speaking, 3 clerics were nowhere near enough for a night going against a level 70 wild boss. This group was only the first team in the rotation. Jiang Yu was currently organizing people to provide further support, but who would have thought that all 3 clerics of the first team would die so fast? Could Unrivaled Super Hottie endure during this period of time? Not only did he have to face the attacks of the wild boss, he also had to deal with the treachery of the other guilds. Ignoring the first team, Jiang Yu turned his view around frantically to check the situation on the front line. Meanwhile, he ordered the second team, which was still preparing, to start providing support right away. As expected, things were not going so well for Unrivaled Super Hottie. Blade Master Lang Rui had already unsheathed his sword. The 2 knights from Samara and Blossom Valley turned around with both of their swords pointed at Unrivaled Super Hottie instead of the boss. Because Unrivaled Super Hottie had secured the boss's aggro, Unrivaled Super Hottie was alone in this 3-directional siege. Besides death, Jiang Yu could not imagine any other fate for Unrivaled Super Hottie. In the blink of an eye, icy flashes blossomed off the enemy blades like dazzling strands of silk, each intertwining, weaving into a deadly net that descended upon Unrivaled Super Hottie. In the end, the boss was the fastest, and started with the Blade Master Ultimate, Formless Phantom Blade. This was a level 70 wild boss. Without the help of the clerics, even the best knight would be jumping to his own death if he tried to block the skill with his shield. On top of that, Unrivaled Super Hottie's equipment were far from the best. Unrivaled Super Hottie didn't try to block the boss's skill. He seemed to have already noticed the absence of the clerics. But if he wasn't going to dodge it, was it even possible to dodge an ultimate from a level 70 wild boss? The answer soon revealed itself. Unrivaled Super Hottie didn't raise his shield. Instead, he chose to run. He jumped backward several times. Lang Rui obviously wouldn't let Unrivaled Super Hottie escape so easily and gave chase at once. Huge strides made his movement much faster than that of Unrivaled Super Hottie's. Just when it seemed as if Unrivaled Super Hottie could not outrun this strike no matter how hard he tried, a figure rushed in front of him fearlessly in self-sacrifice. The gleaming net of metallic flash swallowed the player up instantaneously. While the white light of the strike still dancing around him, the unfortunate soul fell in a heartbeat. In his last moment, his body struggled to twist around, trying to catch a glimpse of Unrivaled Super Hottie. It was Samsara's knight who fell. His death wasn't on purpose. He became Unrivaled Super Hottie's shield entirely by accident. When he saw Unrivaled Super Hottie in a pinch, he activated Knight Spirit and rushed in towards Unrivaled Super Hottie with a charge. He never thought that Unrivaled Super Hottie would have the confidence to dodge. He never even imagined that Unrivaled Super Hottie could flee so quickly. By the time he had charged in front of the boss, Unrivaled Super Hottie had already left his original position. When he tried to change directions again, it was already too late. The boss's blade was already upon him. In the end, he turned himself into the ultimate shield and saved Unrivaled Super Hottie's life. The knight from Samsara was dead, but what about Blossom Valley's knight? He threw out a provoke at the boss with ease. To Blade Master Lang Rui, there was an extremely powerful skill, and it grabbed its aggro right away. Lang Rui swirled around with his blade pointed at Blossom Valley's knight. The Blossom Valley's teams were all well prepared, so the knight was in no hurry. He had thought about it. As of now, Unrivaled Super Hottie wouldn't dare to use another provoke to nullify his provoke if he didn't want to die. He wouldn't dare seek his own death yet. Nonetheless, Lang Rui stopped abruptly on its way charging towards the knight and turned around, rushing towards Unrivaled Super Hottie. Blossom Valley's knight froze in disbelief. He turned around and found Unrivaled Super Hottie, whose gesture proved that he had just used a provoke. He had used provoke. Surrounded by enemies, without a single cleric, this guy actually used a provoke as if he were seeking his own demise. Fine. If you want to die, then die. The knight from Blossom Valley watched coldly, not planning on doing anything. If he became too impatient, then he would end up just like the knight from Samsara, rushing to his own death without even understanding what had taken place. Lang Rui rushed over with large strides, but Unrivaled Super Hottie didn't stand his ground. Instead, he swirled around and tried to run away. However, he was stopped short in his track by none other than the Spitfire that had turned the entire first team of Tyrannical Ambition into a mess. Who's he? Jiang Yu roared in rage. Competing with each other for so many years, all the guild knew each other's experts. Still, no one had heard of this dazzling spring. Where did these hidden experts come from? On top of that, thinking back to his skillful feat of disrupting an entire team and killing all three clerics in a single move, Jiang Yu felt a shiver running down his spine. Those in the first team were all members of the elite main force of the main branch guild of Tyrannical Ambition. Every one of them was an unmatched expert in the game by themselves. How skillful did one have to be to trash all of them in one go? The Spitfire must be at a pro level. Since Team 100 Blossom's ace was none other than Spitfire Dazzling 100 Blossom, Blossom Valley was also filled with Spitfires. However, this particular Spitfire's skill level seemed to reign over regular players considerably. Could he actually be a pro player? Blossom Valley was so determined to get this boss that they even sent out a pro player for this. Jiang Yu didn't know that. Just moments ago, the guild leaders of Blossom Valley and Samsara had the same doubt about Unrivaled Super Hottie. In a way, this competition was very fair. Go die. WushOurWorldAudio.com. The intercepting Spitfire threw out his declaration coolly. His hands moved simultaneously. The speed at which the skills were released fully demonstrated the player's incredible hand speed. Lang Rui still chased after unrivaled Super Hottie, who clearly had no time to respond. Activating Night Spirit, followed by a charge, he rushed straight into Dazzling Spring's attacks with his shield in front of him. Trying to avoid a frontal collision with the charge, Dazzling Spring jumped hurriedly to the side. Unexpectedly, unrivaled Super Hottie's charge twisted around after Dazzling Spring right away. Art charge. Someone among the crowd watching this sideline battle exclaimed in shock. Among all the players present, none of them were noobs. All of them were the top experts in the heavenly domain. Ha ha. Dazzling Spring laughed as if he didn't care about the heroic charge. He had enough reasons to do so. This jump of his was not only fast but also extremely high. The status enhancement of the equipments were being utilized to their fullest. Dazzling Spring's jump height was significantly higher compared to that of the normal players. Despite having used an art charge with a curve of the just right angle, unrivaled Super Hottie's charge seemed to have become inevitably fruitless. Yet in that moment, his sword sung up with his shield. He somehow started to ascend. Aerial curve. Someone cried out in shock. What is an aerial curve? An art charge that didn't only move around on the ground but curved into the air. That is an aerial curve. The mechanics behind it were actually pretty simple. Just jump when you activate charge. However, similarly to Curse of Charge, it's easy to perform aerial curve, but you have to make it effective and hit your target. Because of this, both skills are considered as easy to learn, hard to use skills. At this moment, unrivaled Super Hottie's aerial curve curved upward with perfect timing, shooting straight towards Dazzling Spring. Not good enough. Dazzling Spring laughed. A grenade tumbled down from his hand. With Night Spirit's skill effect, heroic charge wouldn't be stopped by anything. The grenade was entirely just there to create some damage. Unrivaled Super Hottie clearly didn't try to dodge in mid-air. The flames of the explosion swallowed his silhouette in the blink of an eye. Then, within the flames, his figure shot out upward. His height surpassed that of Dazzling Spring in the next second. Still with the shield in the front, unrivaled Super Hottie raised his Night Sword high into the air. As he dove upon Dazzling Spring, his sword slashed towards its target. What is this? Heroic leap. The exclamations continued. What kind of joke is this? How is that possible? Heroic leap could not be performed in mid-air. This was a rule set by the game. It could not be changed. No one can violate the system's rules. However, this unrivaled Super Hottie had accomplished this violation of the system's rules, causing all the spectators to fall into confusion. Who are you? Even Dazzling Spring shouted in surprise. Unrivaled Super Hottie. Unrivaled Super Hottie shout out his name as if it was some kind of move. The falling knight swung out his sword, smacking Dazzling Spring out of the sky and into Blade Master Lan Rui. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 583. Audio source. WushOurWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 583. Flashy but ineffective. After being hit by heroic leap in the mid-air, Dazzling Spring fell like a meteor. Sensing the approaching player, Blade Master Lan Rui pointed his sword and started another sword dance. Seeing the familiar scene, everyone soon remembered the knight got killed in the same manner before. It looked like this Spitfire could only die faster than that knight. Who would have expected the Spitfire to actually fire twice during his fall despite going as fast as a meteor? As the gun roared, the falling figure took on a different trajectory, twisting towards the side. As soon as he landed, he rolled away, successfully dodging Lang Rui's dancing blade. Who are these two players? All the players watching felt like going crazy. One defied the system's rules and used heroic leap in mid-air. The other was able to use aerial fire to dodge the boss's attack while rapidly descending. Only a perfect amount of experience, judgment, and speed would have made both feats possible. Just the slightest insufficiency in any of the three would have spelled failure. Even up until now, the audience still had no idea how Unrivaled Super Hottie had accomplished that impossible heroic leap. The brilliance wasn't over yet. Dazzling Spring's aerial fire, landing, and rolling linked together flawlessly, allowing him to dodge Lang Rui's flashing blade. Still, the descending shadow above his head was still locked onto him. Heroic Leap hadn't ended yet. Bam! Heroic Leap hit Dazzling Spring again. There weren't a lot of changes, but to be able to deal damage again under these circumstances was truly unbelievable for the viewers. Heroic Leap was used under Knight's Spirit. This just Heroic Leap hit Dazzling Spring as well as the boss. The special effect of this skill was to deal equal damage to its targets. There was no way to avoid it, even the boss was no exception. After being hit, Lang Rui's steps paused, unlike Dazzling Spring, who got flattened on the ground. After all, a boss is still a powerful existence. Knowing that the boss was more dangerous than Dazzling Spring, Unrivaled Super Hottie rolled away immediately after landing. The boss soon got out of the stun from just Heroic Leap. Lang Rui's blade chased after Unrivaled Super Hottie without a moment's delay. Expecting the attack, Unrivaled Super Hottie avoided all of the strikes as Dazzling Spring cursed aloud on the side while scrambling away towards safety. All the players who saw it were stupefied. What an evil scheme. He could have run anywhere to avoid the boss's blow, but he just had to run in Dazzling Spring's direction so that the boss's attack would also be pointed at the Spitfire. Had Dazzling Spring not been an expert player with outstanding reaction speed and mechanics, he would have died right then and there under Lang Rui's blade. If it were any other normal player under the same conditions, it would have been a certain death. Even though the boss's sole target was Unrivaled Super Hottie, the boss's slashing sword covered a significant amount of area. If Dazzling Spring hadn't reacted fast enough, he would have been smashed to pieces on the spot. Second tank, take over. Unrivaled Super Hottie shouted. At that moment, almost half of the players had abandoned their tasks to watch the commotions on the sideline. This shout snapped Tyrannical Ambition's Knight back to reality. Blade Master Lang Rui was really close to him right now. Was this his true intention? Everyone was confused. Was Unrivaled Super Hottie trying to lead the boss towards Tyrannical Ambition's troops, or was he trying to killing Dazzling Spring indirectly, or was he trying to kill two birds with one stone? Tyrannical Ambition's Knight immediately threw out a provoke, forcing Lang Rui to turn, while making Blossom Valley's Knight very sad. Blossom Valley's Knight thought Unrivaled Super Hottie was dead for sure, so he didn't rush in to fight over the boss. Who would have thought that Unrivaled Super Hottie would be able to survive through all that? He knew that Unrivaled Super Hottie was too busy to take on the boss, but he had forgotten that there were still people from Tyrannical Ambition present. Right now, the second team, which had a good number of knights and clergy and plenty of time to prepare, easily dragged the boss away. Get it back. Quote, with the knights' shout, Blossom Valley's troops rushed forward. The second, third, fourth, and fifth tank gathered around the main tank to start a war of provokes. Blossom Valley's clerics all tensed up right away. They knew soon that the battle would soon fall into chaos as the ownership of the boss's aggro becomes a total mess. That would be the hardest time for the teams, especially the clerics. Provoke, provoke, Provoke. Both sides started picking fights with the others. They were provoking each other to see which side had the better skill. Meanwhile, despite being pushed around earlier, Dazzling Spring had already jumped back up and was chasing after Unrivaled Super Hottie. Both of them had no helper now, so the battle turned into a one-on-one death match. Dazzling Spring's embarrassing state was nowhere to be seen now. His gun roared in his right hand while grenades rolled off his left, churning up a fiery storm of explosions. Under Yishu's control, the knight moved nimbly in spite of its usual clumsy impression. Unrivaled Super Hottie dodged all of Dazzling Spring's offensives narrowly with skillful pathing. But because of the fast pace of the fight, no one was able to tell how many skills Dazzling Spring released nor how many times he had attacked. All that people could be heard were the endless roars of explosions and gunshots. In the blink of an eye, the colorful visual effects of the skills had swallowed up a large area on the map. "So flashy," someone exclaimed. "But they seem ineffective though. None of them hit." Someone followed up after noticing Unrivaled Super Hottie's expert positioning. "Flashy, but ineffective." When this comment came out, many players paused in realization, especially the players from Blossom Valley. Although Dazzling Spring had whipped up a lively battle for the sake of Blossom Valley, the players from Blossom Valley had no idea where he had come from. Amidst the discussion, one thought suddenly came up, reminding these Blossom Valley's players of one person. That person was none other than 100 Blossom's former captain, Dazzling 100 Blossom's owner, Zhang Jiale. Zhang Jiale's style was extremely garish, just like his character's name, Dazzling 100 Blossoms. However, because he overly pursued the flashy effects in an onslaught of skills, his style's effectiveness had become the target of many's criticism. Especially when his opponent had managed to analyze his fighting style thoroughly. Comments like, "Cool, but you aren't able to hit him," started to appear more and more frequently on Zhang Jiale's commentary. Right now, the same critique appeared on Dazzling Spring. It sparked that feeling of familiarity almost instantaneously among the fans of Team 100 Blossom. WashOurWorldAudio.com. Dazzling Spring grabbed everyone's eyes since the moment he got on stage. His style had been garish enough. It was so excessively flashy that even the issue of being effective had surfaced. Could this person truly be Zhang Jiale? If not, then the player behind Dazzling Spring had perfected a truly unbelievable imitation. However, if Dazzling Spring was indeed Zhang Jiale, then the player who was able to dodge every attack of his had to be a pro player too. Could he be Zhen Chengfeng? While everyone was having a headache just to figure out the situation at hand, Zhang Jiale suddenly exploded as if being triggered. That person really is Zhang Jiale. The players of Blossom Valley were incomparably familiar with their team's former god and immediately came to this conclusion. Even the players from other guilds quickly had the same thought. In this instant, Dazzling Spring's hand speed rampaged freely. Knowledge, decision-making, and reaction speed could occasionally be made up for with luck, but hand speed was a rigid physical factor. It wasn't something luck could bring about. This person wasn't randomly mashing his keyboard either. His character's movements were clean and crisp like a famous star singing. No matter how fast he or she sang, each and every word could be heard clearly. Dazzling Spring gave the audience this type of feeling. All of his moves had some purpose to them. What about Unrivaled Super Hottie? It looked like he could no longer dodge anymore. The brilliant array of attacks enveloped him. Was he dead or alive? No could tell. Probably dead, right? Most of the players made this guess. The wave of attacks had been too frightening. However, Dazzling Spring didn't seem to share their thoughts. Although he stopped attacking, it was because even he couldn't see the situation from all of the attacks he had released. Even so, he prepared to attack at any moment. His gun didn't lower and his left hand had a grenade prepared. He was waiting for the moment the field cleared up. Suddenly, more than half of the players stopped whatever they had been doing. Only those fighting the boss couldn't do so because they simply couldn't. Though at this moment, no one cared about the boss. Everyone focused their attention onto the duel between these two mysterious guys. The light dispersed and everyone saw that Unrivaled Super Hottie had fallen. Dazzling Spring lowered his gun and turned around. His attention was already on the boss. At this moment, Unrivaled Super Hottie's corpse suddenly glowed with a white light. Unrivaled Super Hottie leaped up and headed straight for Dazzling Spring with a charge. This unexpected revival was undoubtedly the best kind of ambush there was. Dazzling Spring had no time to prepare against it. Among the shocked cries of many, Unrivaled Super Hotties charged directly into him. I know picking on noobs feels good, but you don't have to look for superiority in this way, right? You're better than this. As Unrivaled Super Hottie spoke, Dazzling Spring was already being sent away flying. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 584. Audio source: WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 584. Creating an environment. Even though everyone saw the scene clearly with their own eyes, not many of them apart from Unrivaled Super Hottie's helper team understood what exactly had happened. Unrivaled Super Hottie was obviously in a team. He had come over with tyrannical ambition. Although he wasn't officially a part of the guild, he still joined one of their teams. When Dazzling Spring's brilliant attacks engulfed him, everyone felt like he was definitely dead. At this moment, a message appeared in Unrivaled Super Hottie's team. One word: revive. Next to the word were detailed coordinates of his position. With these instructions, the team's clerics cast a revive. As for Unrivaled Super Hottie, he might have died, but he had sent out the message. After being revived, he didn't hurry and get back up. He lay there, acting dead, waiting for Dazzling Spring to turn around before launching a surprise attack. How despicable. The team members who knew the truth couldn't help but give this remark in private, despite their bias towards their teammate. Charged, heroic leap, shield attack, upward slash. Unrivaled Super Hottie's movements were very quick. He chained his attacks in an instant, striking down the target, who had been sent up into the air by the initial charge. These moves weren't things most knights could do. Dazzling Spring wasn't worried about the damage from this combo. He had a stronger reaction towards those words. Who are you? Dazzling Spring made all sorts of guesses, but he wasn't certain about any one of them. What have you been busy with this year? Could you really have been preparing to leave just to run to the game and bully noobs? Unrivaled Super Hottie asked. His voice wasn't loud, just enough for Dazzling Spring to hear. Otherwise, if these top elites in the game heard themselves being called bullied noobs, who knew how angry they would be? Dazzling Spring didn't answer. He suddenly focused, and amidst Unrivaled Super Hottie's continuous attacks, he dodged and actually escaped from the combo. TCH. Unrivaled Super Hottie clicked his tongue. He immediately fell back and Dazzling Spring chased after him. Dazzling Spring immediately won back the upper hand in that instant. The players from the three big guilds were even feeling slightly annoyed at the boss's existence right now. The boss was interfering with this incredible show. If they couldn't determine the skill levels of these two players, they weren't worthy of being players in the heavenly domain. This Unrivaled Super Hottie, could he be? Someone moved close to Jiang Yu and whispered to him. Yes, I have an idea. Don't worry. Jiang Yu appeared to be becoming more and more calm. Heal, heal, heal. Why aren't there any clerics healing? Everyone heard Unrivaled Super Hottie shout loudly as he dodged Dazzling Spring's attacks. Everyone had heard these sort of words coming from knights countless times. No one gave much thought to them. Knights were tanks. Wasn't it normal for them to tell the clerics to heal? But the problem this time was that it looked like a 1v1 duel. This knight was actually telling them to help. Wasn't it too disgraceful? Many of them were disappointed. Heal him. Jiang Yu decisively gave the order. Unrivaled Super Hottie soon began to glow with white light. He immediately stood still and stopped dodging Dazzling Spring's attacks. He was about to go forward and trade blows. How shameless! The players from Blossom 100 Valleys shouted angrily. With several clerics healing him, this guy wanted to trade blows with a Spitfire. Wasn't it too shameless? In theory. For team battles, supporting a tank while having him charge through the troops was a very common strategy. But the confrontation between Dazzling Spring and Unrivaled Super Hottie clearly indicated that these two certainly weren't ordinary players. As soon as everyone saw them as being on a higher level, everyone's requirements went up another level too. Wasn't asking others for help in a PK very normal? But everyone felt like it was too unstylish for someone so high class. FCK. Dazzling Spring shouted. He clearly despised his opponent's action, but he could only run away. No one could directly win over a tank with a bunch of clerics healing him. When he saw this action, Dazzling Spring was now very certain who this person was. He originally thought it was highly probable it was this person. After all, no one else had the spare time to run over to the game to fight a boss. Don't run. Let me give you a good lesson. Did you really think you could go on a rampage without any fear in the game? Quote. With help from the clerics, Unrivaled Super Hottie clearly became more arrogant. Everyone was speechless again. If you're that capable, then don't bring clerics with you. If you hadn't brought clerics, wouldn't you have been the one to get cleaned up? Even though Unrivaled Super Hottie had put Dazzling Spring into a difficult situation too, Dazzling Spring clearly had the upper hand. Previously, Dazzling Spring had directly killed off Unrivaled Super Hottie, who had to be revived to fight back. Unrivaled Super Hottie's equipment had been worse than Dazzling Spring's to begin with. After dying, his stats would be reduced. If they fought head-to-head again, he would just die again. Who would have thought that this guy would directly call for a bunch of clerics to help him? How could he shout like he was in the right? Dazzling Spring looked quite patient. With clerics helping the knight, he obviously couldn't contest him directly. At this moment, he was relying on his fast movements to circle around Unrivaled Super Hottie and target the clerics helping him. Clerics, protect yourselves. Unrivaled Super Hottie shouted. The clerics suddenly started to get flustered. Protect ourselves. More like you should be protecting us. And he wants us to protect ourselves against such a terrifying enemy. Are you joking? WhooshOurWorldAudio.com. As proof that he wasn't just saying this, when Dazzling Spring directly went for the clerics, Unrivaled Super Hottie didn't show any attempts at stopping him. It seemed like he was using the clerics as bait, so he could use the opportunity to inflict heavy damage onto Dazzling Spring. Dazzling Spring open-fired. With his high-speed actions, he immediately engulfed the clerics with a dazzling array of attacks. The clerics immediately acted to protect themselves. Run. The knight didn't have any intentions of helping them. It made the clerics feel very angry. If he wouldn't help them, then they wouldn't help him. All of them sprinted towards their other teammates. Those guys would care for them, unlike Unrivaled Super Hottie. What are you running for? Heal each other. Do you really think he can instantly kill all of you? Unrivaled Super Hottie said helplessly. But previously, a squad of clerics had been killed instantly. Everyone saw it very clearly. How could the clerics not be scared? Dazzling Spring didn't chase after the clerics. He turned around and aimed at Unrivaled Super Hottie. Hurry up and kill the boss. Unrivaled Super Hottie immediately backed away. He looked like he was heading back to Tyrannical Ambition's troops for protection. Dazzling Spring saw through his intentions and quickly stopped Unrivaled Super Hottie. How much movement speed does your equipment add? Unrivaled Super Hottie complained. He saw Dazzling Spring's equipment. Apart from a bunch of jump height, the rest was a bunch HFO movement speed. Compared to a heavy knight, who knew how much faster he moved. Dazzling Spring didn't know either and attacked in a frenzy. Blossom Valley's guild leader Blooming Blossom felt like he should do something. With a shout, Blossom Valley's players joined the fray. They had no doubts about the identity of Dazzling Spring. He was the former team captain and ace player. It was an honor to play with him shoulder to shoulder. Who knew how many Blossom Valley players hoped to have the opportunity to interact with a god-level player like him? Zhang Jiale had already retired, but he definitely still had influence because no one in Team 100 Blossoms was able to replace him yet. Tang Hao was a promising rookie, but according to Blossom Valley's traditions, Dazzling 100 Blossoms should be the core. Right now, the ace player was a brawler. No one was used to it. Everyone hoped Zhou Yuan could hurry up and become the core with Dazzling 100 Blossoms, but Zhou Yuan's performance this season made them give up. He was pushed to do something beyond his abilities. He truly didn't have the temperament of an ace player, or at least he didn't show it. It made it seem like Team 100 Blossoms was being held up by Tang Hao. According to rumors, next season, Team 100 Blossoms was trying to buy Team Wind Howl's top brawler character, 3 hits. Was Team 100 Blossoms really going to become a team with a brawler as the core? This was an issue that made Team 100 Blossom fans very conflicted. Among them included elites from the guilds. Seeing the former captain Zhang Jiale in-game gave them hope again because at least they knew that Zhang Jiale hadn't abandoned glory. Or perhaps he was going to come back. They didn't know, but they wanted to give this former captain of theirs an environment for him to fight in. It didn't matter if it was in the game. Their original goal of the boss had been somewhat forgotten by Blossom Valley. None of the Blossom Valley players that rushed out went to attack Unrivaled Super Hottie. They immediately headed to stop Tyrannical Ambition from helping him. Kill him. The players from Blossom Valley suddenly shouted in unison. They cheered on their captain as if they were watching a pro match. Dazzling Spring's movements clearly paused. He was clearly moved by actions from Blossom Valley. For an enemy, this pause was an opening. Unrivaled Super Hottie instantly activated Night Spirit and rushed at him. End chapter.